Well, this is quite shocking news. President Donald Trump has signed an executive order to begin dismantling the U.S. Department of Education. So let us discuss in simple words what this is all about. What is the Department of Education? What does Trump think about the Department of Education? And what will happen to student loans and other matters? Well, before 1979, education-related functions in the U.S. were spread across various federal agencies, each handling different aspects of education policy and program. This fragmented approach led to inefficiency and a lack of coordination, as each agency had its own goals, strategies, and policy. The result was a disjointed system that hindered effective management and funding of education initiatives. Now, due to this lack of centralized leadership, inconsistent policy standards, and confusion in administration, on October 17, 1979, the 39th President of the USA, President Jimmy Carter, signed an DOE Act, which is today known as the U.S. Department of Education. The goal was to centralize the responsibility for education within the federal government, to allow for more effective policy making, program administration, and coordination between federal, state, and local educational efforts. In simple terms, the DOE was formed to oversee and improve the nation's education system. But for years, President Trump has been a vocal critic of the federal education system, arguing that the Department of Education imposes unnecessary regulations and costs on states and local school districts. He believes that dismantling the department will reduce federal interference and return more control over education to state and local government, where it can be more tailored to the needs of individual communities. Trump thinks the Department of Education is a con job and a complete scam. He pointed to a ranking of the top 40 countries in the world where the US ranked 40th, but ranked number 1 in one area, and that is costs per pupil. Here is a short clip of him. Please watch.
Look, the Department of Education's a big con job. We're ranked, so they rank the top 40 countries in the world. We're ranked number 40th, but we're ranked number 1 in one department, costs per pupil. So we spend more per pupil than any other country in the world, but we're ranked number 40. We've been between 38 and 40. The last time I looked, it was 38, and then I looked 2 days ago, it came out the new list. It came out at number 40, so we're ranked 40. Norway, Denmark, Sweden, I hate to say it, China, as big as it is, it's ranked in the top 5, and that's a primary competitor. We're ranked number 40. So if we're ranked number 40, that means something's really wrong, right?
Now, Donald Trump's claim in that clip was false. The U.S. education system doesn't rank worst in the world, but it is also not the greatest. According to the OECD, which is Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the U.S. ranks 8th out of 41 countries in the portion of people with at least a high school education, with 92% of its people aged 25 to 65 holding a high school diploma. Mexico ranks last in educational attainment, while Colombia ranks last in years of education. So clearly, the situation in education is not as bad as Trump describes. But anyway, Trump doesn't like any number if it's not number 1, so ultimately, he decided to dismantle the Department of Education. Here is an iconic clip of that moment. Not only did Trump sign the executive order, but the kids around him also signed their own executive orders. Please have a watch.
Should I do this? It was very lucky. I signed another document that turned out to be very good for the country, and I said, let's use that same pen. I don't know, is anybody superstitious? Ron, are you superstitious? Let's use that same pen.
Now, here's the problem. Trump has signed the executive order to dismantle the Department of Education, but he cannot unilaterally dismantle the department through an executive order. To dismantle or eliminate the Department of Education or any other important department, a law would need to be passed by Congress. So, Trump's order on the DOE will surely be challenged in court. Although President Trump announced that the Department of Education's useful function, such as Pell Grants, Title I funding, and resources for children with disabilities, will be fully preserved and moved to other agencies and departments. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt also clarified that the agency will not be completely shut down but instead operate in a much smaller form to administer critical function. But still, Trump's behavior is very volatile, and nobody knows his ultimate plan for the U.S. education. Now, people are also divided on this decision. Supporters of Trump's executive order argue that dismantling the Department of Education could lead to several positive outcomes for the American educational system. First, local control could be enhanced. By moving decisions about schools away from Washington, states and local communities can tailor educational policies to better reflect their unique needs. This could mean more parental involvement and increased flexibility in educational approaches. Second, reduced federal spending. With the elimination of a large federal bureaucracy, significant savings could be redirected to other initiatives or even returned to taxpayers. Finally, there's the potential for expanded school choice, such as charter schools, school vouchers, and homeschooling, allowing parents more options in determining the best educational path for their children. However, not everyone agrees with this move. Critics warn of several negative consequences that could arise from dismantling the Department of Education. For starters, the funding of critical programs like Pell Grants and Title I, which support low-income students, could be disrupted. Without a central agency to oversee these programs, many students could face delays or reductions in financial aid, potentially making college less accessible for those who need it most. Additionally, the civil rights protections currently enforced by the Department of Education could be jeopardized. The department plays a key role in ensuring non-discriminatory access to education. Without it, marginalized groups could find themselves facing increased challenges in obtaining equal educational opportunity. Finally, the inconsistency in educational standards could pose a serious issue. The Department of Education helps set national benchmarks, and without it, states might adopt different standards, making it difficult to assess and compare student achievement across the country. Now, various famous personalities are reacting to Trump's decision. Here you can see Elon Musk's post. This meme is quite funny because the word department is misspelled. Anyway, here you can also see White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller saying the Department of Education is overwhelmingly staffed by radical left Marxist bureaucrats. Then again, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt also says the Department of Education has spent over $3 trillion since 1979 without improving student achievement. Now, all this aside, one of the most pressing questions is, what will happen to federal student loans if the Department of Education is dismantled? Well, most probably, the Federal Student Aid Office, which currently manages about $1.7 trillion in loans, would no longer be in charge. This could lead to significant disruptions in loan servicing. Borrowers may experience delays in processing payments, loan forgiveness applications, and communication from servicers. Additionally, the future of federal student loan forgiveness programs could become uncertain without a federal body overseeing them. But despite these concerns, the Trump administration has assured that student loan functions will continue, though it remains to be seen how smoothly the transition will be. So, at last, what does the future hold for the United States in the wake of this bold decision? The answer is still unclear. The decision to dismantle the Department of Education is one of the most dramatic moves of the Trump administration. While some argue it could lead to more local control and efficiency, the risks are undeniable. The future of student loans, educational equality, and the very structure of the U.S. education system hang in the balance. So, what do you think about Trump's decision? Do you support it or not? Thanks for watching the video. Hope you all have a wonderful day.